Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the time-space continuum. I just muted myself. I had to cough. There's a frog in my throat. How's everybody doing today? I am recording this on Sunday, August 20th, 2023. And where are we at with the moon in Libra? Is it really the moon in Libra? It doesn't feel like it. I don't know why. I'm still stuck in Virgo, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, the sun is approaching the last degrees of Leo. Almost the end of Leo season. Better scoop up all that sunshine while you still can. That's what I'm going to be doing this afternoon. So this is going to be a quickie. And I'm going to share my screen and we're going to look at the charts, which I haven't done in a few weeks. I am just going to upload this onto YouTube as a file later on. As I am switching things up again. If you've been following along on the Sunday shows, I've been doing a live show for the last couple of weeks, streaming on eTalk and to YouTube. But I've decided to scale it back a little bit and just start back with YouTube and build from there. If you haven't caught the last of my, I don't know, it was the last 2 or 3 shows, you would have to go to my channel under the live section. It's not under videos, it's under live because I stream them live and then they get saved to YouTube. So that's where they'll be. Whereas this, because it's pre-recorded, it will show up in the videos section. But if you're like really confused because I'm referring to previous shows, that's what I'm talking about. Talking about my live streaming, because I was live streaming to YouTube and to eTalk. But just to clarify, I'm only going to be streaming to YouTube from here on in. It's just too complicated. Not that I can't do it. It's like you kind of have to, I feel like I have to focus on one or the other, and I'd rather bring it back home to my project, to my home space, which is my channel, my stuff, YouTube, Twitter, wherever I broadcast live, and then um, sort of fine tune and perfect that here. And that's really, I'm going to be working on that with the Mercury retrograde season, which is coming up. Yay. I know. It's everyone's favorite time of year. Right now, Mercury is not yet retrograde, but it's stationary and it's very slow. And it's really hovering on that like 20, 21, 22-degree mark of Virgo. So check it out if you have that in your chart. And I do. It's on my Pluto, which is causing me to want to take back control over my stuff, right? Um, And my mind and my communications and my thought processes and my day-to-day stuff, right? Because that's Virgo, my routines. I'm getting into a routine and I am going to be perfecting and fine-tuning my craft during this time. So that's my plan for the retrograde. And it for me, it starts with Pluto. It doesn't quite get to the 22-degree mark. So Mercury is slowing down. It doesn't quite get to 22. It's at 21 and some odd minutes before it goes retrograde. So check that degree out. If you have that in your chart, it will be affecting you. The interesting thing is that by orb in degrees, it's not exact, but it is approaching very closely Mercury, a trine to Uranus. So the big changes and new stuff and, like crazy synchronicities and, um, just like out of the blue changes and disruptions that Uranus brings. Mercury is stopping just short of an exact trine because by degree, Uranus is at 23 degrees and 2 minutes of Taurus. So Taurus is an earth sign. Mercury is an earth, no, I'm sorry. Virgo is an earth sign. All right. So where our mind and our thoughts and our communications are going towards in Virgo is because it's Virgo, all right, it's analyzing things. It's going over the fine details. It's being very precise and very exact about what it wants. So before these changes can happen with Uranus, okay, Mercury is going to go back over the degrees that it was at since, let's see, since it went into its shadow and, oh my God, I need to write this stuff down. So, all right, so in the beginning of August, we started getting this inkling that um, that that there were things that we were missing. There were details that needed to be ironed out. The reason why we started thinking this way and realizing that we need to like talk about some stuff, face some stuff, think about it, um, in a sense, purify our thoughts and our mind and our mental function and mental health or our routines, our daily routines, and anything related to health in general is because at the end of July, we had Mercury opposing Saturn. So that was showing us all kinds of blockages. So if we actually back up a few weeks before Mercury made its opposition to Saturn, which was showing us all kinds of restrictions, fears, limitations, delays, depression, even, or a sense of lack. Uh, Before that, we had Mars opposing Saturn. And that was incredibly frustrating because Mars wants to move forward. Mars is pressing for the details and the wanting to set a routine or maybe set boundaries. So that was a bit frustrating because Mars doesn't like obstacles and Saturn is all about the obstacles, but there's a reason for it. So with Mercury coming in, we get the mental frustration and the lack of communication, difficult communication, etc. Um, so it set Mercury off on a tangent in Virgo, and Mercury is one of the signs that I'm sorry, Virgo is one of the signs that Mercury rules. So we're since that time coming to some realizations, I would say. But the big change that's coming that we get a sense of, we get a taste of it before the Mercury retrograde, because with the Mars also was trining Uranus last week. And so let's say August 17th, last week, after the new moon, um, and also looking at a lot of changes and shifts in the way we feel about our relationships in general, whether or not they are reflecting back to us a sense of value, a sense of purpose, you know, whether or not we're being fulfilled by the relationships that we have, whether or not it is personal or business, creative, family, whatever it is, because our sense of self is changing. We start to evaluate how we think, how we communicate, our relationships, and that's a lot of what the what Venus retrograde has been doing for us. So it's brought changes, things that seemed maybe beyond our control or outside of our influence, but not really, because all of these things that manifest come from our subconscious. So we are consciously making changes, yes, but a lot of this is unconscious. A lot of this has to do with the new moon in Leo, our new like sense beginning and sense of self and pride, right? And with Lilith there, it's the shadow. It's a little bit of, with some, in some situations, jealousies, envy. And, you know, a lot of that comes from like seeing people that have things or that are doing things that we're not or that we don't have, and projecting that onto, that's our shadow, right? Our own dissatisfaction or insecurity, projecting that onto other people. So they become, you know, the scapegoat for our struggle or the reason for our lack of success, or they just irritate us because they're, you know, doing things maybe in a way that we want to do them, you know, like, um, it's like hating on somebody because they're bragging or you think they're bragging, but they're sharing their accomplishments and, you know, whatever they're proud of. But somebody could take that as bragging and look down on them and say, oh, they have a big ego or whatever. But there's the shadow there where that person is like, you know, man, I kind of wish I had that success or whatever. So since the new moon, that's been going on. Mars trined to Uranus brought some big shifts and changes, like taking big action and really kind of taking things to task in a sense where we are in pursuit of something new, something different. We want change. Sometimes those things come and they seem like it's just out of the blue from nowhere. But I assure you, the cause comes from our subconscious. Like, um, I don't know. When the shit hits the fan and things change because you can't go back after that, right? But it's what was meant to happen. It's just that perhaps things were stuck or we were tolerating things that we really shouldn't have tolerated for that long. And then bam, the bridge blows up. uh, yeah, so a lot of shifts and changes that happened last week because of the Mercury retrograde in Virgo. We're still kind of figuring out the details and figuring out like um, what maybe we could have done differently or um, putting some kind of new routine in place, a new structure uh, that's better, you know? Um, Now, starting with today, we've got, yeah, like I said, the moon is in Libra and it's in harmony with Venus. So, um, relating with other people and feeling good about ourselves on an emotional level and with our relationships and our value, feeling our value and self-worth. In Libra, kind of weighing things. I mean, in Libra, we want balance. It doesn't mean we're getting balance. It's what do we have to do to achieve balance and fairness, really, so that we can feel emotionally secure, emotionally in balance, to feel loved and valued. That's Venus in Leo, which is squaring Jupiter. So, really, it is all about our values and it's about something tangible. With Jupiter in Taurus, it is ruled by Venus. So, it's not just about the things that people say to us that make us feel good, right? Or feel valued in a relationship. Um, It is the practical things. Like, are we receiving something real and tangible from th- the relationships that we're in? You know, um, it really should not something that we can measure in the physical because that's Taurus. All right. So Venus square to Jupiter, squares can cause friction. They can cause the action, spur us into acting and making some kind of a change, but the friction here, the rub is because we're dealing with Venus, right? It's Venus square to Jupiter. And Jupiter is in a Venus ruled sign. The moon is also in a Venus ruled sign. So how we feel is rooted in how we feel we are being treated, if we think things are fair and balanced, equitable, if there's justice in our relationships, right? So if we don't feel valued, that's one thing. But if we're not seeing any kind of tangible fruits of whatever we're involved in, with ever we're involved with, then we need to make a change. So while the square of Jupiter to Venus is maybe over, not, I don't want to say overblowing. That is a Venus square Jupiter kind of a thing, like overdoing it. We could be overspending. Um, or over, this almost feels like over an exaggerated sense of self, like overdoing it, over promoting, over what's the word I'm looking for? Overemphasis on our self-importance. for some people, in some circumstances, like because I did talk about in my previous shows, I was talking about Venus in Leo, um, and the beginning of the retrograde, and then Venus conjunct Lilith, and a little bit of this, the jealousy, but also an imposter syndrome where the person that someone may be presenting themselves to be, full of bravado and confidence, Venus in Leo, that is actually um it's actually a mask that someone is wearing that is hiding a very, very insecure ego, right? So with Jupiter, I see that coming out more, um, possibly pushing that out. With the moon in Libra, our sense of what is balanced and people who are balanced, um, we may be seeing things where things are off balance, people are off balance. But in general, as it relates to relationships, because the moon in Libra is all about relationships and the dealing with other people, right? So the let's say the sign of Aries, which is opposite to Libra, Aries is the self. And then the opposite sign, Libra, is ourself and other people. It's the other person, right? Whoever we're dealing with, whatever mirror we're looking into, that shows us who we are as we show up in relationship. Also, how other people are showing up. And the moon here, well, because it's an air sign, air, the moon in air signs tends to be able to, or want to, and need to talk about their relationships, talk about their feelings. The moon is our feelings and our feelings around relationships, whether or not we feel valued, whether or not other people are actively showing us that value, um, and sort of the return. I mean, is there something real and tangible that we're getting from? Is it getting us where we want to go? Is it bringing us more stability? Is there something to build on? That's Jupiter in Taurus. Taurus is a builder. Okay, Taurus represents the raw materials. It's, our possessions, finances in terms of things that we have of value. What is really bringing value into our life? We may not even be directly affected, but here's where we're indirectly affected. And that would be the moon making a very awkward angle to Jupiter. That's called an inconjunct. So Jupiter at 15, 16 degrees of Taurus, which is the physical manifestation, let's say, whatever it is of value, our awareness of this is expanded. So, because it's Jupiter. So the moon in Libra at 15 degrees of Libra is showing us where things are out of alignment. So where our emotional state of balance, our feeling of validation of our value is directly tied to our resources, our finances, our stability, our growth. So I really think an important thing to look at today with this Libra moon, with a Venus square to Jupiter, we've got a lot of Libra Taurus themes. We've got a lot of Venus focus. We're Venus focused today. So I think what we are sort of kind of maybe hit by, blindsided by, or something that we need to make an adjustment with. And it's an emotional thing where we don't feel we're being valued, possibly, or things are out of alignment with our values. Uh, Perhaps we are not representing ourselves accurately. Perhaps we're not, or perhaps we're feeling like we're not being um, really seen by other people, perhaps. And also, something that I think is important to look at is the indirect result of being out of alignment in our relationships, perhaps putting effort and energy into people and situations that don't align with our values or that really don't like value us. So if there's no tangible evidence that a person or a situation is giving back to you in the form of value, whether it's just making you feel valued, that could be the moon in Libra, or you feel that things are out of balance, um, where it's not getting you where you want to go financially, if it's not building your confidence, or it's not you're not feeling validated by what you're doing or who you're doing it with, then that is going to ultimately affect our finances and resources. And I know that that's something that a lot of people are really focused on. So I think that relationships are everything. They really are. Because when it comes to achieving things in life, if we have dysfunctional relationships from the beginning, we're going to continue in that pattern until we realize what the issue is and the thing that we need to heal within ourselves, really, um, where things are out of balance. And until we heal that, it's really hard to move forward and really have the success that we want. I know money isn't everything. However, it is sort of in a sense, it feels like a reward, right? For hard work, or validation that we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, right? When things are flowing. Um, I don't know, myself being an earth sign, I think of things in terms of some kind of tangible result or reward. And money is just an obvious thing. And since we're talking about Venus, Venus, it rules Taurus. So that is in terms of love and relationships, it is the physical part of it because it's an earth sign. Um, it is, of course, our values and things of value. So it is our possessions, it's what we have. All right. So it includes money, but it also includes the physical connection between ourselves and other people, right? So there has to be something tangible about love and money, love and finance, right? And then Venus also rules Libra. Libra is an air sign. So we're talking about love and money and value and resources in terms of earth, which is physical, it's practical. But then we have love and finances and value and money and relationships in terms of air, the air element, which is mental, it's communication, it's how we think, it's intangible. So the intangible results um, of our time, of our investment, is more about whether or not there is some kind of communication too, and a sense of not just me, right? And not just them. You know, there's my experience of it, and then there's their experience of it. But if there's no meeting of the minds and there's no communication, then how can there be the Venus result and the Venus in Leo result of um, I'm feeling loved, valued, worthy? And so, I mean, there's this really interesting kind of a paradox where it's like you can only make yourself feel that way, but yet it really is important how other people make us feel, and they don't really make us feel any kind of way. But you know what I'm saying. We need other people. We need to be acknowledged. We need for people to communicate with us. Right? Have you ever tried to like get to somebody and try to convey something that is important to you that you value, Venus, and you get no answer? How does that make you feel? Whether it's intentional or not intentional, it's like I can't move forward if I don't get an answer. I don't feel like things are moving if I don't feel like my feelings or my thoughts, or my ideas or my needs are important, right? So I think that's a lot of what we're dealing with today. Moon in Libra, Venus in Leo, retrograde, which means it's very strong. Retrograde planets are not weak. They're very strong because they're closer to Earth. And so losing my train of thought. Okay, so and Venus squaring to Jupiter is like it's just emphasizing that something needs to be done. It puts a heavy emphasis on our values and our self-worth and how we feel about our relationships, because with Jupiter in Taurus and Uranus in Taurus, um, there's an expanded focus on uh like physical resources, let's say, or um in terms of finances, of building, you know, a solid financial uh um foundation, right? And throw into the mix relationships. So I feel like we are reassessing our values in terms of this Venus retrograde, but indirectly because we're reassessing our own value and where we might have given some of our value away, you know, like, I don't know, like slumming. Only we don't realize it, right? So if we don't realize that someone, something is not valuing us, I think we may see that pretty loud and clear, especially since we have the sun at the very last degrees of Leo. It's conjuncting, well, it's not really conjunct Regulus yet, but it's at the degree really where Venus and Mercury made a conjunction. So, I mean, that set off the the Venus retrograde where like we really wanted to, I don't know. There was more of a creative bump there. You know, whatever it was, we felt more inspired. Like we're feeling we want change. We need change. And I think we're ready for new stuff, new people, but still kind of hashing out the details. And we got to go through that Mercury retrograde still. And we're going to be reviewing a lot of things. We're going to be going over the details with a fine-tooth comb because Mercury retrograde brings us back to the past in the sense that Mercury is reversing over the degrees that it just went over. All right, so Mercury is going retrograde on the 23rd. That's this week. So that's Wednesday. We've got the Mercury going retrograde. So that's a cautionary day in terms of communication and anything having to do with communication, like paperwork and filing of documents and stuff like that. Or transportation, because Mercury also rules transportation. We're also talking about Virgo, so it is a health thing, but I'm not going to focus on that right now. Anyway, we see big changes coming, and Mars making a trine to Uranus this past week from Virgo to Taurus. There's a shakeup, right? There's the big changes that we are making or that are happening to us, and some rearrangements that we have to make. So I think it's going to take the Mercury retrograde to sort of sort the details out, get back into a routine, get more focused on our health, our mental health, in terms of relationships. You know, we may be going back and tying up loose ends, perhaps. There will be some sort of like just lingering conversation or communication between the old and the new during the Mercury retrograde. And Mercury retrograde, okay, so it starts at 21, 22 degrees of Virgo on the 23rd, and it goes straight through to September 16th when it goes direct at 8 degrees of Virgo. So if those degrees are significant in your chart, make a note of it. But going through the week, let me see. My recording. Oh my God, yes, I am. All right, so here we go. Trying to keep track of when I started, but I don't even know. Whatever, it's been about 20 minutes roughly. And I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see. Hope you like the screensaver. That's the Black Dahlia. The Black Dahlia as a Catholic saint. I love it. Okay. Sharing. I am sharing the screen. All right, this is the 20th. Okay, we got the Libra moon over here. We've got the Venus retrograde over here. And it is making a square to Jupiter. Okay. So I pretty much talked about today. I think I've talked it all out. Mars is starting to oppose Neptune. This is something we really need to watch out for. And it is going to be part of the Mercury retrograde theme because it is going to expose some lies, some illusions, delusions, deceptions, things that we weren't aware of, hidden things. This Mars opposing Neptune. This is going to happen all week. So there are some things that happen early in the week that will set the stage for the theme of the Mercury retrograde. So I always say, watch what is going on for you when Mercury is stationing to go direct or retrograde or direct. All right. And that will be your story. Okay. Or if it's not you, it's affecting other people around you, or it's the stuff going on in the world. So if you look in the news, you see what the big stories are, and I can already kind of tell you what they are. Ugh. Ah. Um, it'll be a little challenging. I'm just gonna say it's gonna be challenging, but I'll get into it during the week because here's my plan for this week. I'm doing my show today. I am uploading it. This is will be pre-recorded and uploaded onto my YouTube channel. Then during the week, I'm gonna do short, maybe it'll be short. We'll see how I feel. I'm going to be doing like a daily check-in, maybe every day if I can do it every day, depending on my schedule. Um, a daily sort of check-in where I'll be talking more about specific things that I see going on in relation to the aspects. But right now, I'm just going to go over the weekly aspects in general and then be more specific when I do the daily type of thing. All right. So, what do we got going on today? Wow. A lot. A lot. The moon is in Libra. It's not really making any major aspects to any planets. It's just kind of hanging out there, except for, yeah, it is making a major aspect to Venus. So the desire to have fun for love and pleasure and feeling good about ourselves, kind of a good thing. It's a good aspect, sort of maybe feeling more ourself and how we where we are in our healing journey around our self-confidence, our self-worth, our relationships, that kind of thing. So emotionally, air moons are kind of detached. It's more about wanting to talk about it and think about it. And so not bad aspects today, but that's on the surface. It's the underlying stuff that's weird. There's all the stuff in the background, like that we're aware of, but an event hasn't happened yet, let's say. There may be discussions about certain things, but I don't know. The stuff under the surface is the Mercury slowing down. It is making a wide trine to Uranus because it's thinking about the details of this big change that Mars brought earlier in the week. During last week where it made its trine aspect to Uranus. All right. So this also, because we're talking about earth signs and Uranus in Taurus is bringing a lot of crazy stuff when it comes to earth changes. There's been a lot more um, hurricanes and tornadoes and earthquakes, volcanoes, that's all of this earthy stuff, like physical manifestations of the shakeups. We're also talking about finances. And with Mars here, we're talking about health. We're talking about our disruptions and changes in daily routines. Although it is a trine, trines are pretty flowing, um, kind of feels effortless. So it seems like we're moving towards and activating changes, and it's okay. It's a good thing. We need it, but it's just sort of happening seemingly effortlessly, right? Um, the sun is making an awkward aspect to Neptune. So the sun shines a light on things and Neptune obscures things. So there are weird things that are coming up that we're kind of able to see that were hidden, possibly about the unconscious, the subconscious, lies and deceit. The sun is making a sextile to the south node in Libra, which has to do with our relationships, partnerships, balance, fairness, equity, legal stuff to some degree. Um, Perhaps where we have lost things in the past or had to let go of, but also bringing up a sense of something that needs to be let go of. And where it was hidden before, it is being exposed to us so that we can see it, so that we can release it. Tomorrow will be the big release day with that because the moon will be on the south node. So, but this, like I said, this is how this stuff works in the background. It's there. The awareness of it is there. We are aware. All right. Venus and Mercury at this point, at the end of July, right? Let me look at my notes. So much going on. It's hard for me to keep up with all these layers of things, right? So, yeah, I think it was, yeah, when Venus went retrograde, like the week of the 23rd through the 27th, Mercury and Venus retrograde conjunct at the end of Leo. Now the sun is at those degrees. So whatever it is that we decided or that we were enlightened about regarding this fog over here or this thing that somebody's hiding, or where just things seem confusing because we had no clarity. The sun shining a light on that. All right. Think about like going around a corner and you've got a flashlight, and the more you proceed around the corner, the more the light of the flashlight is going to show you what's in that shadow that you didn't see. And it might surprise you a little bit or not. Depends on how self-aware you are and how intuitive and how much you're focusing on it, you know? You might be focused on other things. Either way, the sun is lighting it up. The south node is being activated because there's something that needs to go to be released. Something from the past could be coming up. It is possible. But Mars was activating Uranus, and we should be aware of those changes or flare ups or whatever it is. And this is Sunday. Going into Monday, we got the 21st. Again, if you're into the numbers, today, Sunday, the 20th, is an 8 day. Um, all right. The other thing that's been going on is I think this is all going to be more obvious tomorrow. All right. Because on the 21st, that's the 9. All right. The 9 is going to end something, and this is Monday. So we've got the moon at the south node. That's a release. It's a release of information. It's a release of a person from a situation where you might have been bound up in some way, being released. Okay. The moon is making a square to Pluto. Pluto is ending things. It's transforming things, but it's also exposing a lot of deep, dark, dirty stuff. We've got the sun still peeking around the corner at Neptune. All right. Neptune is making a sextile to Pluto. which is purging. This is purging right here. And with the sun at the the, the point of the triangle, it looks like a triangle. It's called a yod, which is a sextile between two planets. And then an inconjunct, that awkward, itchy aspect with the sun at the point of it. This definitely has to do with whatever was going on at the end last week of July, which I know was very stressful. And I think we should rewind because I think seeing it in graphic terms and looking at the date, perhaps it'll jog your memory. I write things down. I do. I make little notes of what's going on. So, yeah. So like the last week in July, all right? Mercury would have been a few days before, the week before, um, with Venus, giving us a big, huge message of something that is ending and something that maybe has been hard to grasp or that's been hidden or we're being lied to or information being obfuscated from us, being victimized, okay? In our relationships, in finances, perhaps somebody was hiding things, sweeping things under the rug, didn't want you to know, didn't want to be exposed for who they were, or maybe you, whoever, whatever. Imposter syndrome that we've been dealing with the Venus retrograde. All right. So think about that time and the beginning of August where Mercury was opposite to Saturn. Very, very difficult. And then, like in the weeks before that, Mars, like the 2 weeks before that, Mars was opposite. So it's like trying to push through this like invisible boundary. That's Saturn in Pisces. It's like, what is the blockage? You know, is it physical? Is it mental? What is it? Anyway, but before Venus can get there, right? Venus goes back into Leo and then forward. And then by the end of, it's not even in Virgo until, I don't know, the end of September, beginning of October. So we're not really able to uh, form a new solid committed thing when it comes to Venus until then. But anyway, I'm rabbit trailing here. But it's important. I think we need to know these things. I think it's important to go back to a certain time period when we have a similar aspect but a different planet and know what was going on at that time so that you know without a shadow of a doubt. And this is the shadow and the doubt. You're going to know whatever it is. Okay. The sun here at the last few degrees of Leo, it is coming up against the maybe the obsession or the toxicity. This could be, I mean, we say transformation, but we have to face our fears. We have to look at our fears and the thing that is controlling us, or an addiction, even. This could be addictions because we are talking about Neptune in Pisces. That's an addictive thing. And then Pluto also deals with addictions. So, really getting to the heart of some kind of the matter uh with the sun will be shining a light on both of these things, okay, around both of these corners. Now, I know I've talked about the fixed stars of Regulus, and there's a bunch of other stars that are in this portion of the sky here at the end of Leo. This kind of looks ugly, but that's like, That's another layer. I'm gonna have to get into that on the dailies because there's a lot that I've been seeing. And you know me, I like to look at the dark stuff. I don't just like, I don't play just on the light side. I like to look at the dark stuff because I think it's necessary. How can you protect yourself if you don't know what the dangers are? Right? So I'm seeing some kind of purge here, and this could have to do with leaders, leaderships, bosses, public figures, um, somebody being outed for their criminality, their deception, all kinds of things. But, on the flip side, it could be us realizing all the scoundrels in our life and releasing people, letting people go, you know? The South Node isn't always loss and release. I mean, mostly it is, but we can be drawing upon past resources and past relationships and what we've learned to help us, to bolster us, and to boost our self-esteem, you know, and to let go of the past, which is very important. So Mercury has not yet gone direct on Monday. We have, oh, yeah, here's another thing. This is really sticky. This is pretty sticky. But if you need to confront someone, it's like, all right, Mars opposite this Neptune. It's like Neptune is trying to hide, but Mars is pressing for the details. Mars is putting pressure on Neptune to evolve and stop being a pussy and stop hiding, stop lying, because Mars is going to get down to the details. This is total whistleblower energy. And I won't get into the asteroids in this episode, but there's a bunch of asteroids over here at the end of Gemini and the beginning of Cancer that are very, very important. And that this is the beginning of what we're going to see once Mars goes into Libra. Then the pursuit of justice is heavy, but it takes someone speaking up. It takes the whistleblower type energy, which is going to send things into chaos and conflict. I'm not going to lie. But it is the exposure of whatever's being hidden over here. So this is a big week for exposure and people coming forward with the details, with the receipts. That's Virgo. All right. Mercury in Virgo has been giving receipts ever since it went into Virgo. It's been giving details, going over things with a fine tooth comb, showing you exactly where the problems are, what needs to be, what we need to do better, where we need help and whatnot. So, but before the big change, before Mercury can announce the big change, because that's the Uranus stuff, it's going to go backwards. But Mars already brought it. It's already here. And Mars in pursuit of these details is highly critical. Both Mars and Mercury in Virgo are highly critical. If you notice how people are speaking to one another, they're really not really mincing words, and it can feel like an attack, but it's the truth. All right. It's not really thinking about someone's feelings necessarily. It can be a little tactless, but it's really more of how it's being received in that case by Neptune over here, which has a tendency to play the victim. All right. So there is a lot of projection going on here. There's a lot of scapegoating, a lot of finger pointing, a lot of buck passing. And I think it really started at the end of July with people not owning up to making a mistake or, um, doing something harmful or wrong. We're lying, or hiding information, obscuring things on purpose, just not communicating at all, not following through, not honoring your word, not having integrity. Okay. That's all the Saturn stuff that we were dealing with when Mars went through here. Mars couldn't push forward because Saturn wasn't fucking doing its job. All right. Saturn was fucking off. So Mars was very frustrated because it shows up and there's no one to you know, lead the team or be accountable, be reliable. That integrity was lost here with Saturn and Pisces. All right. So Mars got very frustrated. Mercury started talking about it. That would have been the end of July, early August. And so, whether or not it was talked about, it was aware, the awareness was there. And Mercury during the retrograde is going to go back to try to understand things or rebuild things. If if the situation is done for you and you're moving on to something new, you're kind of reevaluating things, trying to understand better, to do better, to communicate better. We still may have some snafus with Mercury retrograde, but I mean that's just par for the course. It just happens, right? Um, and actually I was looking at the aspects because it all kind of boils down to the aspects of Mercury. And Mercury in Virgo, it's in a home sign, so it's happy there. Like you'll be happy to redo things. You'll be happy, like it's almost like getting an opportunity to redo things before the new thing starts. So don't worry about the delays. It's okay. All right. So there's purging going on Monday. That's all I'm going to say about it. I really want to do an episode with the asteroids because there's so much going on. Oh my God. I could really, really, really go deep, deep, deep into the woo. But I'm just going to keep this late. All right. So Monday, that's a 9-day. Something's ending. I'm sorry about that. But, that's good news. Actually, sorry, not sorry, because it needed to go. And just let it go. I don't know. I feel there's an energy of things just dropping away and being able to feel lighter just because that burden no longer exists. All right. So that's a 9-day. It's an ending. Get excited about that. Wednesday. No, sorry. Jumping ahead. Oh, I missed one page. There we go. Tuesday is a 1. Something new is starting August 22nd. Moon is in Scorpio. We're deep in our feels, guys. It's a really great day with the moon in Scorpio to do some kind of research because I guarantee you there's things happening around this time that is going to really make you want to look deeper about everything that's going on. There is, let's see, the aspects that the moon is making on Tuesday. Well, early in the day, it's going to trine to Saturn. So I feel like intuitively, the moon and it being in Scorpio, we are going to be intuitively drawn to the answers that we need. The information, the reasons behind things, and how to deal with them where we may not be in integrity, where we might be out of alignment, what our blockages and frustrations are, because the moon making a trine to Saturn, it is pretty grounding and it's gonna give us some kind of footing, even though it's in a watery, intuitive, emotional sense. Um, we may feel like, okay, I've I see the issue. I want to make the change. I am taking responsibility. I know where I might be out of alignment, out of integrity in some way, and I want to make good on it. But how can I do that, right? So also getting hold of our own state of mental health. Let me tell you, this is so important right now. Um, there are external factors, the planets notwithstanding, that are causing changes to not just our situations and our relationships, but our physiology. And this week, I'm going to go deeper. When I do go deeper, we're going to talk about the sun. We're going to talk about DNA. We're going to talk about some deep darkies, dark energy. And when I say dark energy, in the sense, yeah, it can be negative, but it also means hidden and esoteric, occulted, hidden. So that's what I mean when I say deep woo. And maybe probably on Tuesday, if I would map out my week, I'm talking about relationships, fairness, balance, justice, some legal stuff, um, maybe celebrity news, public people's personas on Monday, because the moon will be in Libra on the South Node. It'll be on my South Node, by the way, because I am having my nodal return. Does that make me special? Well, I am special, but it is bringing focus to my natal nodes, which are in Aries and Libra, the self and the other. And they also happen to be in the houses, the first and seventh, which are the self and the other, the first house and the seventh house, personal and relationship. So tends to be an area in which I excel. Not really. It's where I strive to excel, but I have a lot of experience with it and I have a lot of stories to tell. So, yeah, if you missed a few of my last shows, I did talk about Narcissus, the asteroid, which has been traveling on the South Node, and I also have it natally. So, could I be an expert? I don't know. Let's just say I know what I know what I know of what I speak. And what I speak comes from my own personal experience. And I have had a lot of experience dealing with narcissistic personalities. And like I always say, it is a spectrum. It is a spectrum. And people will exhibit more narcissistic traits at certain times than others. I think this is one of them. I think that this came up with uh, the Venus retrograde. I think people showed their ass and it was like, oh shit, that's what it is. I'm dealing with a narcissist. Fuck. I had that moment. Eh. And it's like, yeah, you know it. Right? You can kind of know it and be like, yeah, okay, I could pinpoint that one. I identified that one, but then they do something. And then it's like, that's it. There it is. That's the evidence. It's the receipts of Virgo. Anyway, so probably we'll be talking about relationships and whatnot. on Monday. That's 21st. And then I will get into the woo on Tuesday, the 22nd. If I'm doing a live. Let's see. I think I can do that. Um, and I may even start taking calls again this week. I don't know. We'll see. You can always leave me a message. 914-222-1231 is the Astrobat hotline. But why I'm saying it would be good to go into the woo stuff on Tuesday is because the moon will be in Scorpio. Scorpio favors esoteric subjects and research. And I've been doing a lot of research. So these aspects for me, the Mercury or whatever, the Virgo stuff for me and the Venus retrograde have brought me back to my deep woo research, which includes stars and asteroids. And if you're familiar with my work, you know, if you know, you know. There's a lot of flavor going on here. And sometimes I look at this stuff and then I'm like, ugh, should I even say it? It's so dark. It's so dark. But listen, this is why I am a true crime fan. Because I'm not afraid of the dark. I don't mind going there. I like it, in fact. I think it's good to purge the shadow. And I think that's a lot of what's going on this week with the sun at the apex, making weirdo aspects to Pluto and Neptune. There's a lot of purging of the dark shadow. And sometimes we collectively do that through what's going on in the outer world. What we observe in the public arena. I think that's happening. Like I said, whistleblower type stuff and crazy things. This is also an assassination degree, and I did see that early in the retrograde. We saw some, I don't know. We're not sure if they were suicides, but you know how that goes. Like they didn't kill themselves. And assassinations were going on too, with Venus going over these degrees. Oops, happened. Ah. All right, so Tuesday, we'll get into some wooey stuff, maybe some true crime. That would be cool. Yeah, right. So the aspects of that day, of the 22nd of Tuesday, moon in um Scorpio. It's kind of subdued with the first aspect being to Saturn. It's like maybe it's good to just mull things over and to stay quiet and decide what your responsibility is in this matter. And later in the evening, we're going to have the moon making a square to Venus and an opposition to Jupiter. So it's like our values, other people's values, how we're being valued, the value of our relationships, um, the psychological dynamics that are going on underneath the surface. It's a good time to do some self-work and go inward, even though, it's a waxing moon, so it's growing, but we do have these sort of yin and yang moments with the moon every couple of days when it moves through different signs. Sometimes we're going inward, and sometimes our our emotions can be expressed outwardly. This seems like temperance. Temperance is a virtue. So that's the 22nd. Maybe I won't talk about those things. I don't know. We'll see how I feel. Wednesday. That's when Mercury goes retrograde. So we're starting to rethink things with a Mercury retrograde, right? So it must be later in the day. All right, so Mercury retrograde on the 23rd, somewhere along the line. The moon is still in Scorpio. It makes a supportive aspect here to Mercury. So anything having to do with the mind, the communications, the information, paperwork, research, finances, debts, taxes, that's Scorpio. I wonder if there aren't some new laws coming out or regulations perhaps being discussed. I don't think they would necessarily happen right now. Restrictions. We do see that coming. If you're on the social medias, not on Facebook because those things are banned, but you can talk about it on Twitter. There is a rumbling that some restrictions may be coming back. I did see on a campus college, college campus, certain one. I don't remember which one it was, but they're regressing back into the dark ages of 2020. So I would think we will see pockets of this because Saturn is bringing fear. So watch what you hear and what you see happening the 22nd into the 23rd. All right, because Saturn is restrictions and fear. And the sun, which is entering into Virgo on the 23rd, or could be the 22nd into the 23rd. All right, so the sun also making that inconjunct, uncomfortable, incomfortable aspect to Pluto, that brings up a lot of fears. Pluto is death, fear of death, right? And going into Virgo season, we're thinking about our health. Mars is an attack in Virgo on our health. So you know what's coming. And like I said, I don't think it'll be across the board. I don't think it'll be tolerated, but we'll see what happens. Because people are doing their research and they're also more informed. All right. And on the 23rd, I see also the moon will oppose Uranus. So that's some kind of shocking sudden change, right? Or rebellion. All right. So it could be that there are new laws, regulations, restrictions, blah, 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 coming in, and there is a resistance to it because we have information, we have receipts, we have information, all right, that counteracts the fear. So while there will be those that want to react in fear, there will be others that are informed, that are going to go back and disseminate the information. That'll be a lot to do with the Mercury retrograde. Information being disseminated regarding health. Okay. There are protocols and remedies and ways of dealing with things other than the way we dealt with them 3 years ago. We're living in a different world now. All right. And the thing is also the control, the lies, the manipulation is being exposed. I said I wasn't going to go into it that deep, but it's there. It's 23rd. Big day. Big day. There's a lot of information, communication. If you need to communicate with with someone, or you need to pass along information or break through that blockage, and that fog, that's a good day to do it. I would say it's very detail oriented. It's very helpful. This is a day that I would say, God, if you needed to like call your doctor's office and get, some information, medical records, anything to do with that kind of thing, paperwork done. It's a really good day to do that because you'll be able to focus. You'll be able to focus Mercury in Virgo and get to the bottom of the details that you need. And then what you're going to do with it, you're going to take it and during the Mercury retrograde and go back over it and disseminate it, whatnot. All right, the 24th. The moon is in Sagittarius. This is the first quarter square of the moon to the sun. So from the new moon, which was over here at the end of Leo, the sun goes into Virgo, makes a square. The opening square to the moon is in Sagittarius. So the 4 stages of the lunar cycle, you have the new moon, the first quarter square, the full moon, and then the last quarter square. And I look at it as, a beginning and then the first big change or the big hurdle. It's usually internal when it comes to the waxing moon, the first quarter square. It's usually an internal thing. I call it a crisis. It's not necessarily a crisis. It could be a crisis, but here it really has to do with Virgo, health, details, starting a new routine. A lot of people are thinking about going back to school or are going back to school, colleges. We could be dealing with colleges as the moon is in Sagittarius, but we're learning. So this could be the first stage of your learning journey when it comes to higher understanding, a higher perspective, higher learning. That's Sagittarius. Teaching also has to do with teaching. There's going to be a big focus. And I mean, it's obvious, right? We know what we're looking at. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen that way. This is what we're facing. There are people who, out of fear, are going to create more restrictions. And then the antidote to that is information, teaching, learning, showing a different way. There's resistance here, there's action, and the moon is also squaring Saturn. Saturn is the authorities, the powers that be, the old ways, the fear, the obstacles, the delays. So the similar things that we may have experienced in the beginning of, let's say, at the end of July, the beginning of August, when I was talking about when Mars in July, when Mars and Mercury were here at around this degree where the sun is now. The sun brings light. All right, it brings focus. So however we were thinking, feeling, acting, communicating during this time and having issues, we should have more clarity about it. If it has to do with health issues, we're learning perhaps how we want to approach these things, whether it's a routine, a diet, getting healthy, that kind of thing. So this is like taking the first step. I mean, we have been taking the steps, but we'll see the fruits of our labor to some degree, or the truth of the matter about where we're being held back, perhaps, where the These are Saturn in Pisces is the invisible boundaries. It's like you didn't know there was a law against something until you were guilty and you were charged, right? This is really coming into play. If you follow any of the major interesting lawsuits that are going on right now, whether it's criminal, uh, or I don't know, the crypto lawsuits, let's say. Um, Governmental bodies and authorities preventing people and putting in obstacles, uh, which are not really law, like a lot of what we experienced 2020, 2021, 2022, and all the rules we had to follow, those weren't laws. If you realize much of that were just statutes or edicts, right? And it required our participation. I don't think we're going to participate. Uh, and we're going to like push back against things that are not clear because it's not fair, right? It's not fair to not know where the boundaries are. So that's a lot of what we're dealing with this week. Um, so right. So this is Thursday, the 24th. Oh yeah, Wednesday was a 2-day. So this is a 4-day on the 24th. That's Thursday. Sorry, it's a 3-day. Excuse moi. Um, we're in the first quarter crisis, uh, taking action or feeling like, oh my God, we need to act. We need to do something here. So whether we're resisting, putting up resistance, or there is a barrier or an obstacle being put in our way, a lot of which is fear-based. It's not based in truth. There's an illusion here with Neptune and Mars. All right, Mars opposite Neptune is crossing boundaries. It's also invasions. It's also exposure of sketchy people and activities. There's a lot going on here. So, everyone's chart is different. So how you're going to be seeing it play out for you, very different. Um, but either way, we are in the new moon phase, still the waxing phase from the new moon. It's just the midpoint between here and the full moon. It's like a checkpoint, like, okay, we see where this is headed. What can we do about it? Well, first of all, we need to learn more. We need to take a higher perspective. We need to do the Sagittarius thing and inform other people. Sagittarius is the media. All right. So a lot of this will be playing out, I believe, in the media. The other thing that we have going on in the background all week is Venus squaring Jupiter. There could be financial issues, relationship issues, um, perhaps travel. Well, we are talking about Jupiter and we are talking about Sagittarius, and they are like one and the same kind of. Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So the moon in Sagittarius is going to bring a little bit of focus to this square between Venus and Jupiter. Is it financial? Is it um, legal? Is it transportation in terms of long distance travel, which would include airplanes? Is it shutdown of travel? I don't know. Ugh. Restrictions with travel. That's definitely coming. I mean, they want you to wear masks again. So we could be looking at that, but there's a financial element here. There's definitely a financial element with Venus. I'm putting a strain on relationships and perhaps companies. Can they afford to do these things? I don't think so. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Bottom line. Really, the bottom line. And Venus, I'm sorry, Mercury going retrograde is like in Virgo. Virgo is a poverty sign. Virgo is a lack kind of a sign. It's like and so is Saturn and the sun opposing Saturn. It's like we can't afford to do this again. We're losing money. Um People may be withdrawing. Well, if it's an educational issue, people withdrawing from school so they don't have the tuitions. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to go into it, but I can't help myself. All right, where are we? So that's 24th. That's Thursday. Friday is the 25th. That's a 4-day. And here we've got the exact opposition. The sun, well, it's coming to opposite. Sun and Saturn retrograde. Um, another thing I wanted to mention with the Mars, Neptune, this is a leakage of energy. This is also psychic attack. And I think a good thing to look at is if you're in conflict with people, how your energy can leak. If you participate, how you participate in the conflict is key. If you detach, you don't engage, um, you won't be as drained uh by the conflict. It's even if you're not having the conflict, this is conflict. Maybe you don't feel it directly, but it can affect you. Um, Mars opposite Neptune, you could probably feel very tired, and Sun opposite Saturn, very tired. The breaching of boundaries, what I was saying before, I mean, that includes viruses, uh, entering our system and being compromised. A lot of what we're going to think about, talk about, communicate about with Mercury retrograde in Virgo is the immune system, immunocompromising situations. And these aspects, Sun, Saturn, uh, Neptune, and Mars, can bring a lot of fatigue. So make sure that you're getting enough rest. It'll be difficult. Like, don't overextend yourself. Don't the stress, like don't let the stress get to you. Uh, Anger, flare-ups, like don't stay in it. Don't take it to the next level. Don't act on it because that will dissipate your energy. The psychic attack kind of thing, that's a lot more subtle than people think it is. That's not necessarily a witch sitting there, stirring her cauldron and throwing in an eye of newt and cursing your name. The evil eye is a real thing. And people's thoughts towards other people, um, they really do have an effect and resonance. So we could be feeling it, but the way to insulate yourself from that is not to engage. First of all, don't return the serve, as in volleyball. And, but sometimes if you're caught in the crosshairs, you can't help it, but there will be a lot of fatigue. So just take care of yourself, boost your immune system, do a little research and find out like how you could be healthier, how you can improve your diet. So be proactive. This is a great time to be proactive, an ounce of prevention, as they say. And then, so that's by Friday, we're like exhausted. So another thing we have going on here is Juno has been making an awkward aspect and in conjunct to Saturn, and Juno is partnership. Juno has entered Leo. Let's see, when did that happen? Earlier in the week or now or when? Yeah, it was last week. So what we're seeking in partnership and what we value about our partner, um, or that we are seeking in terms of affirmation for our partnerships is love, affection, admiration, attention, value, that kind of thing with Leo, right? So this is going to hit a bump with partnerships, commitments. What are we committing ourselves to? Are they committed to us? Is there a lack of boundaries and commitment, right? Are there expectations of love, but there's not really a commitment to build it? I don't know, some of the things we might be looking at. All right, so back to the 25th. Yeah, and that was a 2-day, right? Oops. 5, 7. Hang on. Yeah, the 23rd is a 2-day. I don't know. Putting up walls, are we? There's some kind of blockage. All right. Maybe people are being blocked. Maybe people are being restricted. Socially distant. Anyone? Some people will. I think it'll be a choice. Actually think it'll be a choice. It'll be a choice that the company makes in terms of their rules and regulations. I think it'll be a personal choice as to who's going to go back down that path, timeline. Like, that's regressive. But there will people who will go there. And so, we could be parting ways with some people again. I also see like it, if you look at the last couple of years, it divided us collectively into two different groups. Those two different groups have since split off. So there's a further and further splitting, right? I think that's interesting to watch. It's further decentralizing into smaller and smaller factions. All right. So, yeah, Friday. Friday. Commitment, loyalty, boundaries. Yeah, we're definitely reaching a crossroads. Mars is about to go out of Virgo into Libra. And it's really making a very strong aspect to Pluto here. So Pluto is power, right? So it's consolidating our power, taking our power, acting on it, act or be acted upon. I think it's really a pushback against the deception. That's what I feel. Because the deception comes out this week, there's the pushback, there's the anger, and that comes from the common people. All right, Mars is warlike, right? It's action, aggression, assertiveness, but Virgo tends to be, the common working folk. So that should be interesting. The moon in Sagittarius is making a trine aspect to Venus. So this will highlight our relationships, our values, maybe having to do with travel a bit, because there's also a funky aspect with Jupiter in conjunct the moon. I really feel like this has a lot to do with what will be coming out and being broadcasted. Also legislation. All right. That's Friday. I don't know. But we are getting a higher perspective, right? I mean, emotionally, we're learning, we're growing, we're getting it, we're seeing the signs. And oh yeah, Friday. The moon makes that square to the Mercury retrograde. So I think there's going to be some kind of announcement, rah, or talk of going backwards, Mercury retrograde, in terms of work, because that's Virgo too, health, communications, and, our mindset and the way we think about things. Reassessing, reassessing our values. And I'm looking to see if there's anything else. I don't know. I just feel like it's kind of a repeat of some instances that we have, like we've been down that road before, but no, we know more this time. We have more information and we have a voice. That's also part of this Mercury retrograde is the people, the common folk, Virgo, the helping professions, um, regaining their voice. This could also be a strike or a walkout when it comes to the employees, like uh, the lower tier of the workforce, because that's Virgo. Hmm. And that whistleblower stuff too. I don't know. People are likely being forced to do something they don't want to do again because it's going to hurt them in the pocket. Whether the company doesn't want to do it because they can't afford to do it, they're talking about like, we can't really do that. Like we can't go back to what we just went through because it was a wreckage financially. Anyway, I think we're talking about healthier ways of doing things with the Sagittarius moon, taking a higher perspective. And also, we didn't have the information that we had before because it was stifled, it was muzzled. We weren't allowed to say certain things, and media outlets weren't allowed to say certain things. But we have new media outlets now that are not controlled. They left the big media outlets, certain people, because they couldn't say certain things. And now they're on a different platform. There's more information out there. So this should be really interesting. We're going to really be coming up against what is this invisible fencing for people. And it really has a lot to do with compliance and agreement, and consensus. And the consensus is not there. It's just not there. Okay. The 26th, that's Saturday. It's a 5-day. The 4-day, Friday, the 25th being a 4-day, fours are foundational. There are stability, some sort of a stable stasis, right? Then when we move into the 5 on the 26th, that's a little bit more chaotic. Mm, perhaps there is a little bit of chaos in the upper ranks because the lower ranks are descending and they're not going to play the game. Mars is at the very last degrees of Virgo, so it's like really needs to buckle down on the details and the information. Also, I forgot to mention that Mercury is conjunct Pallas, Athena, which is strategies and patterns. So we're going to be talking about the patterns and identifying certain patterns, right? And talking about them and developing new strategies. This is where I was talking about Mercury after the retrograde because it stopped just before, just short of making a trine aspect to Uranus, which is the big change. Now, if we're talking about this in terms of like the money system, that's valid, or just physical circumstances, and our stability and things that are beyond our control being shaken up before we go on to the new phase of it that Mars was pushing for. It's really there, but we have to integrate it. We have to talk about it. We have to think about it. We have to educate ourselves so that we're ready to move into it, so that our mind and our emotions and our physical reality is all in the same on the same wavelength or so. So the moon in Capricorn, it's more sobering. It's definitely like, well, the moon is going to make a sextile to Saturn. So there are some decisions and actions that can be taken here that are going to benefit us in terms of our routine, our stability, our health, uh, in terms of the workforce, and just making mature decisions and rational and taking responsibility and accountability. We're taking responsibility for our health, our daily routines, the changes that are happening, our relationships. It's all of those things. But Capricorn moon tends to feel better if it can get work done, if it can focus on practical things. And there is a big supportive energy over the weekend to actually really um, get things in line to where you're going, to where you want them to be, to streamline things. So, I don't know, getting rid of things over the house or starting over the weekend, getting rid of things that are in the house or starting new routines. Very, very good for this type of energy. It's very stable, it's grounding, it's practical. It favors working hard, taking responsibility, being mature, having integrity, and being of service. I think it's a very important thing during the Mercury retrograde and I'm sorry, Virgo season to think about, are we being helpful? Are we really being in service to others in terms of our goals and everything that we're doing? Does it benefit other people? Like, can we help others with what we're doing, not just ourselves? So there is a sense of community and bonding together for a common purpose. I like it. The weekend looks good. Um, yeah, there is that friction, that tension. The Mars at the last degree of Virgo is cranky. It just is. But maybe it's pissed off because it's not getting clarity from the other side where Neptune is. Neptune still wants to live in its delusional fog. Mars is passing it by. It's like, okay, I see you. I'm not going to play with you anymore. When I get into Libra, I'm going to want fairness, balance, justice, equality, and I'm going to fight for it. Mars is not really that friendly to Venus. I mean, to Libra, because Libra is a little, you know, it's like it likes the social niceties. It's a Venus ruled sign. It wants peace, balance, and harmony. And Mars wants war. Mars wants war. So consider it a lot of saber rattling in terms of, the world stage. That's going to be, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of power grabs, a lot of power plays, a lot of conflict in the political arena. We already know that, but it's going to get worse. So buckle up. What else is going on the 26th? Well, I guess it's really not until the 27th that Mars goes into Libra, and that's a 6 day. So we get the conflict and the action and the change and a little bit of chaos and movement doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. Um, Changes that we can make. I mean, it's supportive of that. It's actually really supportive of making some pretty radical changes over this week. So Saturday might be a little like chaotic, some changes in schedule, some shifting, especially with the Mercury retrograde. So I would think that if there's any kind of snafus or miscommunications that might happen on Friday, or having to switch things up, because with Mercury retrograde, it's important the aspects that are being made. In the beginning, Mercury's not really making any aspects, not really, like it's sort of aspecting Uranus. So there is a little bit of change, little novelty, chaos, um, rebelliousness, but it's moving away from the aspect, right? So it's at 21, Uranus is at 23. So it's not really aspecting, but when the moon aspects it, that's when the truth comes out, or we see the need for change, or we see whatever the Mercury retrograde story is going to be about. We might see it on the 23rd when it goes retrograde, hear about it, whatever it is. And then the need for action, or the crisis of perhaps differing beliefs, because we are talking about Sagittarius, right? Um, it is dealing with our beliefs and our understanding in conflict, perhaps. So see what comes up on the 25th, on Friday. See what decisions have to be made. Again, this is all part of defining your Mercury retrograde story and what you're working on, and to know. But when these aspects come up, that's when we can expect these changes. So in the beginning, we're not really getting much activity because Mercury isn't really going to make any aspects unless it's an aspect to the moon. All right. So this is the first one, the 25th. Aspects to the moon, and then aspects to planets. It won't really do anything until it gets to a trine. It'll make a trine to Jupiter, and it will make a conjunction with the sun. So it's going to start out slow. You're going to be like, Mercury what? Mercury who? Mercury retrograde? Nah, it's not affecting me. Well, you just wait. It also has to do with the degrees of your planets too, and everyone is different. Your mileage may vary. Um, so see what happens on the 25th. See what happens this weekend. I think we need to pay attention to whatever information is coming at the end of the week, because that's the way we're going to know how we need to make adjustments. Will it affect our travel? Will it affect our money? Will it affect our health and our routine? Will it affect back to school? Probably. Will it affect our relationships? Maybe. Maybe. But not yet. I think it's more of a practical stability, financial values, possessions, the need for physical assets, because that's Taurus. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. So that's Saturday. That's the chaos day. Excuse me. Um, so on Sunday, the 27th, that's the sixth day. The sixth day, evens and odds. I like to say the odd days give us a little bit of change and chaos. The 6 days are more balance, reciprocity, harmony. And with that said, Mars moves into Libra. Yay. So I don't know. I think Mars in Libra, the aggression is, it can be a little more friendly, but there's an underlying aggression, like passive aggressive. Like somebody can really smile and say something. It's not really outwardly, openly aggressive. Not like not like in Virgo, but Virgo, it's more practical. It's more like, I'm not attacking you, but this needs to change. And here's why. Here's the details. Here's the receipts. Please just do something about it. Because we're dealing with sensitive aspects in Virgo and opposing planets in Pisces. And Pisces likes to like take the victim mentality. Like, you're attacking me. I don't know why. It's not fair. I worked so hard. I didn't do it on purpose. Well, maybe Mars isn't really that mad. But if you're avoiding things and being like a Pisces and like, it's better to just hide and not want the open conflict. Well, Mars in Libra doesn't want the open conflict either, but it does. It does what it has to do. But Virgo, Pisces axis is a lot where, people feel criticized and they get kind of sensitive about it, or they feel it's unfair, or something's being projected on them, and they're being attacked without reason, which all might not be true. It's time to get off. I need more coffee. Mm. So Mars will change its tactics. Mars might be trying to be a little nicer, but it's still aggressive, still assertive. But it may want to pursue balance and peace, fairness, justice. Anyway, uh so Sunday, that's the 6th. I always think of the 6 of Pentacles, of reciprocity, or the 6 of Cups, where someone's offering you something. Someone's like, there's help. There's help here. There's support. The moon is in Capricorn, so, it does what it has to do. And it is making supportive aspects to Mercury retrograde. So could be bringing something to our attention that we didn't know before, or a way to do something better to up our game in Capricorn. Capricorn moon is focusing on work and achievement and status in terms of, where we're going, getting to a higher level. But also the moon is making a square to Chiron. So we may feel deprived, we may feel hurt, we may feel unacknowledged. There may be a slighting. Someone slights someone, and it could be someone in authority because it's Capricorn. The moon in Capricorn just wants to get the job done. And somebody could be taking it personally. It's like the authority, Capricorn, and the individual, right? So the individual may feel like it's not getting a fair shake, like it's being cheated unfairly, and not the individual is not necessarily being honored here. There are decisions being made. There are, there's a definite shift in power. And I think we'll see that more on Monday, because Pluto is still square the nodes, where it's Aries, Libra, self, others, um, anger, aggression, fighting, and harmony, balance, reciprocity, peace. And then there's Pluto. Pluto is transformation, yes, but it's also power and the structure of our society. and how power is administered. I think we're going to see that sort of issue again come up where a centralized governing body, whether it's in a corporation or the country, let's say, is going to say, well, we've got to go backwards. Mercury retrograde. It's for your best, for the health, for the workforce, for or it could be the common folk and the workforce asserting its power and its authority. Because I think we do have that now. I'm just wondering if the shift of consciousness has happened enough people to realize that there's the safety in numbers. Uh, so there will be a confronting of the dark side and maybe opposition to this deeply entrenched Pluto power in Capricorn. Um, we will see if that balance of power is shifted. It could just be the beginning of the fight. That's what I think I'm seeing here. It's the beginning of a pushback. It's the beginning of the asserting of the change, because we need to get more people on board with our plans. I mean, this could apply to anything. Like if you're running a corporation or a company, a business, whatever, apply it in that way. Apply it to the fear of the changes that are happening, whether it's regulation or uh, the rights of the individual versus the collective or the will of the government. All right. So yeah, I mean that's really in terms of Mercury retrograde, it's the moon aspects. So I think we get some notice or news or idea or some kind of snafu, something happens on Friday that gets worked out over the weekend by Sunday to where we more or less have a handle on it, and we could take the authority if we so choose to, and we can take on that Pluto power. We can not be afraid. We can face the darkness of Pluto and transform ourselves and our relationships. Um, what else is going on? Yeah, I think I'll save the rest of it for any kind of dailies that I'll be doing when I see particular aspects. Um, anyway, Sunday, moon square to Chiron, some kind of a wounding, a hurt, an offense, asserting authority over someone, maybe they don't like it, or healing. It's Chiron, so it's wounding, it's healing. I think like the best use of it is definitely to be accountable, be responsible in our expression of our emotions, and show how far we've come in terms of healing. So, not too bad. And again, God, it's gone so long. I think I started an hour and 45 minutes. I've been going. I really have to figure out how to make this shorter. I think I'm going to be able to make it shorter. The weekly forecast will be shorter if I can come in and get little tidbits of information out during the week, because then I won't have to talk about them so much. I'll just talk about the aspects and the basics and then go deeper when I do the daily stuff. We'll see how that works out. Anyway, Mercury retrograde coming, so I'll be redefining, reevaluating, and streamlining how I communicate, that's definitely going to happen. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining me. If you actually stayed to the end of this, I appreciate you. And I appreciate your viewership and your support. So, would you please like the video? Definitely subscribe if you haven't. You can click the bell to get notifications of when I go live or when there is a new video. And you'll want to do that because I will be doing pop-ups, like I said, during the week, and we might be doing live readings. I think I'm going to do that next weekend, but we'll see. Again, thank you, everyone. And if you would like to schedule a reading, you can actually text me or leave a message on my voicemail on the AstroLunaChick hotline at 914-222-1231. Or you can email me. You could do that too at astrolunachick@gmail.com. And I will give you my booking information. I have bookings for all needs, all shapes and sizes, to fit every budget. So that's what you could do to get the ball rolling. Get in contact with me. And if you are not following me on the socials, first I ask, why not? But you can find me. I'm on Facebook. I have a page on Facebook, AstroLunaChick, and I do post my new videos and announcements and anything I might be doing. I do post there. I post on Instagram, AstroLunaChick, and Twitter, where I have a lot of fun mocking the clown world. I post astrological updates, but I also like to look at news items and current events and relate it to the astrology. Yeah, those are my receipts right there. So if you're on Twitter, follow me, AstroLunaChick. And until we meet again, ciao for now.